All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a single, really powerful statement and just unpack it piece by piece. Our whole goal here is to try and understand the deep connection it's drawing between two huge concepts we all kind of grapple with: spirituality and sanity. So here it is. At first glance, that's a pretty provocative thing to say, isn't it? It directly connects a personal spiritual path to organized religion, and it uses the idea of insanity as this bridge between them. So let's just treat this like a puzzle and figure out the logic that's holding it all together. And that really is our central question. For right now, let's just set aside whether you agree with it or not. Our mission here is simply to understand the logic it's built on. What's the argument that's actually being made? Let's break it down. Okay, so our investigation has to start with the very first piece of this puzzle, this idea of the spiritual path. The statement uses this phrase in a really specific way. Now, what's so fascinating about this is that this isn't some textbook definition. It's actually derived right from the logic of our source sentence. Think about it. If religion is what confirms you aren't insane, then it must mean the spiritual path is what makes you question if you are to begin with.
So you gotta ask, why would it make you question your sanity? Well, because it suggests a departure from the everyday world, from, a shared common reality. This kind of path is deeply individual. It can lead to experiences that just don't fit into what everyone else agrees is real. You're suddenly trying to navigate a world that other people might not see or even understand.
And that kind of journey, well, it naturally leads us to the most charged word in this whole statement, doesn't it? Insane. To really get what's being argued, we have to understand what this word is supposed to mean in this specific context. Now, this is absolutely crucial. The statement isn't using insane like a doctor would. It's not a clinical diagnosis. Not at all. Instead, it's pointing to a very specific kind of feeling, an existential or maybe a social state. So, what exactly is that state? In the logic of this argument, insanity is that chilling feeling of being utterly alone in your own reality. It's having some profound world-shaking experience that literally no one else can see or validate. Without any external anchor, with no external reference points, your personal reality can start to feel untethered. And that is the fear the statement is getting at. Okay, so if the spiritual path can lead you to this really profound sense of isolation, where does religion fit into all of this? According to the statement, it plays a really specific, really powerful role. And here's the answer. Religion steps into the picture as the solution to that problem. It's the external validator. It's the big framework that can look at your deeply personal, maybe even isolating experience and say, hey, we recognize that. You're not alone. You're not going crazy. And this is where you really see the central dynamic, the push and pull. On one side, you've got this raw, internal, deeply personal spiritual journey that can feel super isolating. And on the other side, you have this structured, collective, external religious framework. The whole point of the argument is that the second one exists, at least partly, to give some kind of container, some kind of meaning to the first. But how does it actually do that? Well, it provides a shared language, right? A shared history, a community. An experience that felt totally unique and maybe even terrifying can suddenly be reframed. It becomes a mystical vision, or the dark night of the soul, or a divine encounter. These are ideas that have been talked about and shared for centuries. It basically takes something that felt unshareable and makes it shareable. All right, so we've taken a close look at all the pieces, right? The spiritual path, that big question of sanity, and the role religion plays. Now let's click them all back together and see the full argument in action. So let's trace the logic from start to finish. Step 1, it all kicks off with this idea of a deeply personal, isolating spiritual journey. Step 2, that isolation creates a huge psychological risk. You start to question your own sense of reality. Step 3, this is where religion comes in as the counterbalance, offering that shared structure. And the final step, the conclusion, by giving you that structure, religion confirms that your experiences are valid, that they're not a sign of madness. And boom, that brings us right back to the final part of that original statement. Suddenly you see it's not just some random claim. It's actually the logical endpoint of this whole argument about the connection between our inner world and our shared beliefs. So what's the big takeaway here? The crucial point is that this statement is arguing one of religion's main jobs isn't necessarily about divine truth, but about social and psychological confirmation.
It's almost like a safety net for the soul, catching people who wander a little too far out into their own inner worlds.
And that leaves us with one last, really challenging question to chew on. The whole statement we just unpacked hinges on this idea that external validation is what separates a spiritual insight from, well, a delusion. But if an experience needs someone else to tell you it's sane, is it? That's a fascinating thought, and it's really the core tension at the heart of the whole idea we explored today.